and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am.
Hello there, beloved Ascension pioneers, and welcome to another one of my Illumined Union videos, where I want to just place a little more focus on the archetypes and the avatars of what I call the Illumined Union, or what truly is an Illumined Union in itself. This video also relates to the previous video. I've talked about Hieros Gamos as the Holy Union, and I want to further emphasize about this process because I feel a lot of people still misunderstand that concept. So as a state of inner union can be achieved within us internally through the balancing and, as a fusion of inner polarities within our feminine and masculine aspects of the Creator God, then also we know Hieros Gamos is an externalization or an external experience when we experience that with another. And I've talked about how Hieros Gamos is in relation to, that what we perceive as an act in contradiction, because it truly is something of much deeper nature. So I want to talk about how this all came into being and why now so many of the people are experiencing what they call their own inner twin flame reunion, or the twin soul union. So a while ago, at the birthing of the avatar that we know as Jesus the Christ, there was a counterpart for this sacred marriage that he was supposed to anchor on the planet that we know as Mary Magdalene. So, as in many teachings share about this truth already, and you can find also more about that in one of the teachings of the Era of Peace through Patricia Cota-Robles. And this is, in fact, a state of illumination which becomes revealed to us when we connect to these inner principles within ourselves, and when we understand the path of our sovereign God nature and what is the true path of this inner spiritual or alchemical union. So many masters of the previous ages, or avatars of different ages, in relation to the overall picture of where our planet is currently at in its own state of evolution, many of these masters were male in their physical expression, which, when it was realized, by the greater councils of light, in many ways and forms was also misinterpreted. So their teachings, because of that, and because the patriarchal establishment was so strong on the planet, this resonated with a little bit of the distortion of what their messages truly were. So the avatars of the Piscean age that we know as Jesus the Christ and Mary Magdalene were the first ones to establish and seed the codes of life for what many, as we know, the illumined beings, or the sons and daughters of God, or whatever you call it. So many beings, all of us as children of the divine, would be experiencing at this age, and especially at the summonation or at the completion or an integration level of the age of Pisces, just before entrance into the Aquarian age. So this meant that the principles of the Logos needed to be applied through both the masculine and the feminine principles of truth and wisdom. And when these two beings lived their mission, which you can find more about as well in these teachings that Patricia Cota-Robles offers, and I really resonate with these teachings because it's very much in alignment with what I received through my own Illumined Truth connection. So it was a pathway to, first of all, mirror and reflect to those who have fallen too much into the patriarchal or very male-seated or imbued principles that went against the celebration of life as in its whole holistic nature. So the divine masculine and the divine feminine as essences within ourselves that we are to birth forth, to nurture and experience in its full capacity. So when they planted their seeds of illumined union through their own representation or implementation, as well as carrying out within their own mission. They weren't the ones to do it because they were so special and because they're the only ones who can do it that way. And in many ways, as you know, it was also falsely shown to us at the collective level, because in many cases Mary Magdalene was just taken out of the equation or distorted or, you know, talked about in a very faulty way, which truly did not represent her true nature and character. This and the whole teaching of what they were truly meant to establish here came much later through the awakening of the Christ and the channeling of light that came forth through many people that started to carry this seed, that they started to activate this seed of illumination within their own physical bodies through their light body connection. So when this started to come out to the surface en masse, we were all overflooded with this idea of, wow, you know, we all have a twin flame. Wow, we were all meant to establish this physical connection in our earthly life at this time. Perhaps and perhaps not. It really depends where our soul is, what is our current soul contract through our I Am Presence, and as well as the understanding that this was a seeding that held a template of light for that age to come, as an age of the summoning of these teachings. Because, you know, at the beginning of every age, there is what we call the seeding of the codes of light that go into the programming of that template that is then meant to become the experiential, a walkthrough of experience of people on earth. So at the summoning or, you know, summarization period comes a time when all this that was integrated and all the experiences can start to come up together. And this is now why I'm shown so many people are getting so infatuated with the term twin flame, or the idea of a twin soul union. Many beings who are ready to create this summarization in the physical are being, in a way, called together, are being called to activate those same codes of light. But they first need to integrate that level of consciousness within their own selves, just as the avatars that we know as Jesus and Magdalene had to do, each within themselves, their own mystery school and teachings of training, and then step on this pathway of walking this mission together until their mission was needed and actively required in this planet at that time. But that mission was not just to establish that connection for that time in particular, because it was already planting the seeds for what many would en masse experience after this summarization period. So this is where a lot of you perhaps are finding yourselves at, and you are contemplating on these things, and you're being drawn to these teachings, and you are resonating with this truth or the idea of what we might call a union with another. And when I talk about Heroes Gamos, the way Spirit shows it to me is, as you know, there's people who connect to each other only at the egoic level and they can't move beyond. And then there's people who come together at the soul level. But the highest form of divinity in terms of the union experience through the equalized polarity within and then matching that as on the without, that comes through the enlightenment or the illumined experience, where two people are both the vessels of spirit and they can share that together on the level of frequency attainment. Because this is, again, something that I always tell you is not something we can only wish for. This is something we have to integrate as that state of light. So as our journey takes us through the many experiences of love, our understanding has to move from the distorted faculties of what we interpret these things to be, such as terms as twin flames, Heroes Gamos, illumined union, so they can take their rightful state and be embraced within the light of what they truly are, not something that we want to make that happen or something that our egos are interpreting that to be. Because in truth, we are here to become liberated, to walk the pathway of that experience, but in its truthful nature, a vibrational understanding and illumined truth becoming our physical reality. So when, again, we talk about the term as Heroes Gamos, is the physical coming together where the spirit and matter are fused or imbued within each other at the highest capacity, so that no one level supersedes the other. So there is this constant representation, through the infinity loop or the infinity spiral of light that is created within such a union. And this illumined state of union sometimes, as I've shared with you before, requires a lot of preparation and training in terms of our physical experience, and should not be mistakenly replaced with just the term of coming together with one another. We might all experience that, and as I've shared with you before in many of my Cosmic Beloved videos and themes, it is something that has become much distorted in our world, because just as we are starting to open to this infusion of light information, we're also becoming sometimes too overly infatuated with it, to the degree that our egos start to misinterpret what we are receiving from the realms of light. So we have to go about this patiently with a lot of integrity and trust, and invoking this higher presence of the I Am to truly guide us on the path of illumined union. If we feel that that is our path, our calling, and that we are in a way readying ourselves or getting prepared for this union, we can even invoke masters or avatars that have paved the way for illumined union, that have planted the seeds such a long time ago. And yet time is only an illusion, because in truth, timelines and our earthly reality are like constructs or templates that show the dimensional awareness that becomes possible, or the main frameworks that are meant to be serving as teaching tools within a certain age. So when that is again being summarized and integrated fully, only then can we move forward into the new age of experience. So what began as the one seed, as we might say, well, it was such a rarity for two beings to exist in such a dark framework or such a dark timeline, to then bring forth such an illumined reality within themselves, and to act as husband and wife at the highest level or the highest law of unity, and to show how this then overflows all of our creations. Then this is now becoming the opened reality and truth for many. But we have to truly understand that this is something that we need to integrate within ourselves, because no one, no avatar, no being of light will do things for us. We have to pave the way through what was established with that seed. But then we are the one who gestate that seed. We are the one who bring that to its fullest potential. And this is in a way a path that requires so much purging constantly, because all that is false starts to dissolve and move away, and that which is in a way falsified. So the main teaching here was, as I've shared before, and it is also offered through these beautiful sacred teachings by the era of peace. I want to say that the most important part is that people start to awaken and understand that we don't just have what is shared as the Father God or the male God principle, but we exist within a cosmic nature of the feminine masculine God principle, or what I call the creative force of life. So the forces of creation that are sacred masculine and sacred feminine, when they need to be represented in such a faculty that we activate our full potential, not just one half, because then it diminishes the other half, then we need to really understand what this means for our work here, in our current cycle of evolution. So the main idea was to truly show and represent that even what we might call a being that is of such immense light as is existing in a form of avatar is still a human being, because they're meant to anchor this physically. So they experience that, what we might experience when we have our own relationships, but the experience will be in a human form, and yet what is emanating through that, what is coming through that human form, through that human completely purified vessel of nothing but pure conscious loving understanding and compassion, that really opens the gateways towards divine love, then we can truly have that experience. So you might have the physical vessel that appears physically the same, but the energy coming through, the energy that comes through is that which will denote whether that is just a relationship or whether that is a union, and whether that even more deeply is an illumined union. So I want you to contemplate a little bit about these words, about what this means within our sacred hearts, and how first we need to truly integrate the feminine and masculine principles of life within ourselves, so that we, just as those avatars have set about at the beginning of this journey within this age that is now ready to complete itself, how can we have those experiences without wanting to have them, without trying to make them happen, but truly trust that as we're blossoming into our unified polarity, they're already happening, they're already manifesting. So I also have a Cosmic Beloved course that takes you through this journey of these archetypal representations and how you can integrate them within yourself, so that you can enter a state of illumined union when you feel you are called into that path and purpose. I want you also to know that we are all a part of this. So even what we might see or talk about as avatars is in no way separate from us. These are simply cosmic aspects of ourselves that have been flowing through the individuals who have devoted themselves and opened themselves in their human level enough so that the cosmic level was able to penetrate through and become their ultimate experience. And we all can have that as an ultimate human experience if we devote ourselves fully to this path, which means, as you know, the basic law of creation is that that which is intangible, in order to become tangible, or the laws of the cause becoming the laws of the effect, there has to be enough life force quotient that feeds that reality so that it can blossom and can become a crystallized form, which means a critical mass needs to be achieved so that we can truly bring that into the fulfillment of the physical form. And in many times, because we don't trust that fully, or because we have old habitual memories of egoic tendencies and controls, we stop trusting and we stop feeding that beautiful life force flow into these creations of Most High. And what then happens is we witness that as proof that it is not happening, instead of working on it and eventually reaching that critical mass, which is the gateway towards illumination, is knowing that every breath, when it's held through the highest divinity, when it's made in reverence of spirit, just as equally as the reverence of form, brings us closer to that nature. And in my path and my journey, I've shared many videos that can help you along this journey. Just look to this playlist called Divine Reunion and the Twin Soul. And I also have a self-mastery course about mastering polarity and the twin soul nature of our being and how to truly walk into that illumined union. So I wish you many blessings on this path. As always, I will talk to you soon with so much love, wisdom, and power, and of course blessings of illumination from this sacred space of divine love that overflows all life. I'll talk to you soon.